Welcome back to our very noisy and active farmhouse kitchen. It is almost Christmas time, and so kids are even extra excited and counting down the days. Now, if you come across this video later than Christmas, the ideas, the recipes, and foods that we're making for breakfast will still be very applicable. I like to keep making special things throughout these months that sometimes tend to drag on. Now, I will say with 8 kids, they don't really drag on anymore like they used to when I had 1 or 2. My sister and I were talking about that, how whenever we had our first couple kids, there wasn't a whole lot going on. Those days just drug on and on. Now it's so busy and active, I tend to not even notice. This morning, one of the things I want to show you is a cinnamon star. This is a sourdough cinnamon star made with my sourdough cinnamon roll recipe. So I'm getting it going bright and early this morning so that later this afternoon or this evening I can make it. Now, what you're going to want to do if it's for breakfast, not for a gift or something else, is get it going the night before and then you can make it in the morning. I'm kind of moving on to another thing, but I do want to just tell you about some of the things that I did there. One is I am using freeze-dried eggs because we preserved so many eggs throughout the spring and summer months whenever we were in abundance, and now they are very scarce. We like to save the fresh eggs that the chickens are actually laying for things like fried eggs. But whenever they're going in a recipe, nobody can tell. So I just put the rest of what was already in that half-gallon mason jar into a jar and added about equal parts water. Now, typically for, I believe, 2 eggs is what I usually figure. I do a 1/4 cup of the freeze-dried eggs and a 1/4 cup of water. I use these measurements so very loosely. I've been doing it over and over again, and it's kind of just like, just pour some in there and it tends to work out. But if you want to be more precise, those are the measurements you're going to want to go for. Now, normally on my cinnamon roll recipe, it calls for coconut oil or avocado oil. We were frying brioche donuts this morning, so I already had it warm on the stove, some lard that the donuts fried in. So instead of melting coconut oil in a separate pan, I just went ahead and used that for the oil component. Now, you don't want to add hot oil directly to a sourdough starter because it will kill the yeast. So usually I'll add the honey in on top of the oil, wait till it cools a bit, make sure it's not hot to the touch, and then pour it in. Another thing you'll want to do long before you plan to actually make this is set your butter out. So usually whenever I set out my dough, I also set out my butter. Butter is a fat, so it doesn't go bad very quickly, at least, especially if it's from the store. Homemade butter, as long as you press very diligently out all of the buttermilk, it also doesn't go bad, but I imagine that the factories that make this Kerrygold butter probably make sure that they get it all out. So I find that it never goes bad. Well, never. I'm sure it goes bad at some point, but I can leave it out for a good long while, and it's so easy to work with whenever it's nice and soft. So to the butter, I add some brown sugar. When I first made this, I also added some white sugar. I think that made it actually a little bit better. This time I just did brown sugar. I don't really measure, but I just make a sweet, buttery concoction. Also add some cinnamon. Once the dough has been fermenting all day, I add salt. Now you can also add additional leaveners like baking soda and baking powder. If you let it do a second rise, the yeast will make it rise. Those leaveners will make it rise more quickly, so you can add those in after that bulk ferment as well. Today I just did salt. The first time I did it, I added in the baking soda and baking powder, and I actually liked it quite a bit better. So I think next time I will be doing that as well. I did let this sit out and rise a bit just to use just the active yeasts that are in the sourdough starter. Either option is fine. I've done it both ways with my sourdough cinnamon roll recipe. The first time I made these stars, I doubled my cinnamon roll recipe and then cut it in thirds. That's about perfect. This time, I just used my regular cinnamon roll recipe one time and made 2 of the stars. So we already have a double batch rising again to do this again. And this time I'm gonna do the 3 stars from the double batch of my cinnamon roll recipe. After it rises all day and you add the baking powder and baking soda and salt, divide it in 4, roll those out into circles, spread between each circle the cinnamon, sugar, butter, and then you can see here how I cut it and twisted it. I then brush it with a bit of cream. You could do an egg wash, you can do nothing, and then bake it according to the cinnamon roll instructions over on farmhouseonboone.com. Now, this, of course, is a little bit more of a tedious, complicated way to make cinnamon rolls. Now, it makes it a lot better. My husband said this is the only way you should ever do cinnamon rolls because instead of it being really doughy, each piece gets some cinnamon sugar butter. Like a lot more of it is woven throughout the recipe than with regular cinnamon rolls. Because it's a bit extra effort, it would make a perfect Christmas morning breakfast. It also makes a great last minute gift idea. I've already gifted it once and I have 2 more people I want to gift it to. So we're just keeping these things coming and I plan to keep making them all winter long. I'm gonna add cardamom sometimes, really change it up a bit. It's something creative and fun to keep yourself busy through these winter months, and of course kids love it too. Something that I notice in my kitchen, especially when I go out of town, which happened recently, we went down to Branson, we saw the Petersons. It was a great time. But whenever I'm out of my kitchen, it's harder to gain back the momentum and flow that honestly makes meals come together effortlessly. The 2 things that I'm showing here that happen all the time is sourdough bread and water kefir. I've been keeping those going and it makes it to where there's always something that we can eat or drink very easily because I keep these things going. Whenever I step out of that momentum, I find it hard to get back into it. I got to get those kefir grains out of the fridge and get them going again. It takes a couple batches for them to get active. I got to get my sourdough starter out. Usually it wants a little bit of extra attention because it's been neglected. It needs to take a few more hours for it to really get active. When I'm in the flow in my kitchen and my starter is bubbly and the mixer is already dirty from a different dough, I can just throw one more thing in there, strain off some kefir grains, make another batch of yogurt. Things are going and moving and there is always something easy to make. One example, something that we have been loving, is brioche donuts. Now this might sound like something that wouldn't really work for a large family or anything at scale, but actually any recipe that I'm super comfortable with, and my brioche dough is definitely one of them, is something that is easy for a crowd because I don't have to give any mental energy to it. Now, though I'm going to show you how to make these custard filled and a little bit more special, it'd also be a great Christmas morning breakfast, I have made these many times without taking those extra efforts and just having this brioche dough in the fridge ready to go, heating up on my stove some lard or tallow or coconut oil, whatever oil of choice that you are using, and just pulling off bits of that pre-made dough, putting it in the oil, tossing it in cinnamon sugar, you could dip it in chocolate, and making a really quick breakfast. I find this is actually as easy as something like pancakes or waffles or something that we accept as a quick breakfast, whereas making homemade donuts doesn't really feel that way in our minds. But whenever you have the dough already fermented, already in the fridge, it actually is. You're just warming up some oil and plopping it in. It doesn't actually even need a second rise. So here, I took my brioche dough, I divided it up, shaped it into little buns. I let it rise a second time, and then I'm letting it cool and tossing it in sugar and filling it with custard. But in my home, I really, honestly, for the most part, just prefer making up a double batch of brioche dough, letting it rise, letting it ferment, do its bulk rise, put it in the fridge covered, and then whenever we want to make a couple donuts or 25 if they're really small and you have a large family, which is typically what I do, pull it off a little bit at a time, don't even do a second rise, plop it in that oil, toss it in cinnamon sugar, and it's seriously faster than whipping up a batch of waffles. So the way that my brioche dough works, if you've been following along a while, you've probably encountered it or made it. such an easy dough to make. It's very versatile. It's one that I make all the time. And unfortunately, you do actually need a stand mixer for it. But put all the ingredients in the mixer with the dough hook for a good long while. It takes a while to come together. I mean, like a half hour. But after it pulls away from the sides of the bowl and it's fully developed, let it rise until doubled, and then you can put it in the fridge until you want to use it. The make-ahead quality of this makes it perfect for a Christmas morning breakfast. Now, in preparation for Christmas morning, I need to fill some stockings, and I want to tell you about today's video sponsor, Walmart. I said that like some of you may not know about Walmart. I don't think it needs an introduction, but I do want to tell you about the last minute gifts with online pickup and delivery. From December 21st through December 24th, there are so many great deals on last minute gifts. I am actually a huge Walmart Plus user. I love that I can either schedule the orders for delivery or for pickup. We use both. We use the app as our list. So instead of making a list, we just add it to the cart on Walmart. And this is especially helpful and easy during Christmas time. Some of the things that I picked out for people on my list and for the stocking stuffers are gift cards. Those are always loved by everyone. And Walmart has several of them on their last minute gift ideas. I did put this tablet up here because it's a great deal and my kids love to listen to the Adventures in Odyssey app. Games, hair accessories, kinetic sand, Play-Doh, those are all the types of things I put in my kids' stockings. So if you are a last minute shopper, be sure to take advantage through the 24th on these last minute gift ideas with the Walmart delivery and pickup. I will leave all the links below. After filling my kids' stockings, I feel like we're mostly good to go. I try to put a couple of little things to play with, like the Play-Doh, kinetic sand, Legos, age appropriate, of course, per kid, and then some various candies and whatnot. We have a tradition of the chocolate oranges and the hot cocoa bombs. The kids all have personalized mugs that they use on Christmas morning. So we have some things that are traditions, and we do lots of splurges. I do like to fill the stockings early, ideally, just so I don't have any surprises on Christmas Eve where I notice that I forgot this particular kid for something or need any last minute ways to make the stockings look full and festive. Now for Victor, he's the baby. I just put a little outfit in there, mostly for the sake of the other kids getting to see that there's something in his stocking. I know that they'll all think that's fun. He won't care one bit. So he got a cute little outfit. Maybe I'll put him in that on Christmas morning. I think all the kids are going to be really happy. We have a tradition on Christmas morning of going over to my husband's parents' house for breakfast. A lot of times I will bring something and then we're out for the day. So we go straight when we're in that area, which isn't really close to where we live, to another Christmas celebration. So we don't hang around super long in the morning, and we pretty much just do stockings because the kids do have grandparents. They end up with a lot of stuff on Christmas. I just go ahead and fill the stockings, and that's my thing that I've always done. I don't do really any extra things beyond that. But I'm also one that whenever kids need something throughout the year, or there's a good reason why they want something, and not just anything, but if there's a good reason why they need something or want something, whether that be an art supply or something they need, like a musical instrument or a program or something that I think would be good for their education, I buy things throughout the year. So I don't do this thing where I wait all year, just get stuff just to get it on Christmas. So for me, it's just the tradition of filling their stockings. Now, like I mentioned, I like to stay in the flow in my kitchen with the bread, with the water kefir, keeping things going and stocked. So baked goods stocked, food and freezer stocked, makes it to where I can throw stuff together quickly. Something that we always have is bread and eggs. And what is more millennial of me than to do an avocado toast? This is an easy way to make just regular toast and eggs a little bit more exciting. Some of my kids don't like the avocado. That's okay. We have toast and eggs going, so they can take whichever way they want it. Of course, for me and for Luke and for the older kids, we like it with the avocado. Now, I think you're typically supposed to use olive oil. I spread my toast with butter, add some avocado, some salt, some everything bagel seasoning, and a fried egg. And this is one of my absolute favorite breakfasts, especially if I can serve it with some bubbly, probiotic-rich water kefir, which I can do this morning. And of course, to keep this cycle going, I need to get another loaf of bread in the oven and then mix up some more dough to do it all again. Now this loaf, it has been in the fridge since yesterday because I got a batch going. That's a double batch. I baked one right away and then put one in the fridge for the next day. And now I'm ready to mix up some more dough. One of our family's favorite meals, whether at dinner time or breakfast, is biscuits and gravy. It is loved by all. If I can make up a double or a triple batch, that's always good. Sometimes we'll eat it for breakfast and then lunch as well. I like to make it in my large cast iron skillet. Sometimes I even make it in the Dutch oven just so that I can make a really large quantity and really get in there and stir it, not have to worry about splashing anything out. Today I'm doing 2 pounds of sausage. This is from my sister's farm, New Hartford Farm Co., if you want to look that up, and she does actually ship now. And then my daughter is making some einkorn biscuits. I like whenever I make my sourdough biscuits and I have the dough sitting in the fridge ready to go. That's what you should do. That way you can make this even faster and it can be fermented. But if we're not fermenting the dough, at least it's an ancient grain like einkorn. This is what we do more often than not. Now, I don't measure, I just add some flour until it soaks up the sausage grease and then just quite a bit of milk. After it cooks for a bit, it will thicken up, and then when it cools, it thickens up even more. So if we are going to warm this back up, if we don't eat all of it, I'll just add some milk, and that helps it to not stick to the pan or be too thick. I add pepper and salt to taste, and that's pretty much it. I like to serve this with scrambled eggs, but right now we don't have enough eggs, and I tried serving freeze-dried scrambled eggs, so eggs not in a recipe, and nobody liked it, unfortunately. Everybody told me that nobody would notice, but my family all noticed, so I am just using all these freeze-dried eggs for recipes, like putting in the brioche dough, which takes up quite a few eggs. Cinnamon rolls, there's just so many ways. Cookies, we don't have to worry. We will use them. We've been going through them like crazy just in all of our baking endeavors. So they won't be served alongside the biscuits and gravy, but there's enough protein here with all of that sausage and this healthy einkorn flour. Some mornings, I don't really want to eat much, something very heavy like biscuits and gravy, but I still want to get plenty of protein. I'm currently nursing a 5-month-old, and really all moms or all women, no matter if you're a mom or you're nursing or you're pregnant or you're none of the above, need to be getting enough protein, and sometimes we're on the go. It's difficult to do that. One thing that I do is I get protein in my drinks, and lately I've been really enjoying matcha. If I didn't think it was bad for me to just drink coffee all day, that's what I would do. But after having my morning coffee, I really don't want to just right away go and have another shot of espresso. So I switch over to matcha. I steam some cream, add some maple syrup, add a scoop or 2 of collagen peptides, blend that in, and I enjoy this drink just about as much as I do a coffee. Usually have it around 10 a.m. when I'm wanting another hot drink this time of year. Well, I hope that you have a very Merry Christmas. I cannot wait to see you in the new year. I have so many plans for what to share with you in 2024.